Welcome, everybody, to the Real Dealz podcast, one of the top-ranked real estate investing podcasts for the last 7 years. This is the place to be for investing strategies you can actually use, expert interviews, and, of course, some good old-fashioned entertainment. Now, here's your host for the show, Elliot, the REI guy, Smith.
Real Dealz podcast listeners, this is show 380. Pretty hard to believe that I've made it to show 380 already. I think I started in the 340s. Pretty proud of myself in the sense of I'm a very big idea guy. I'm not always the best follow through guy. And I have only missed one show 1 week. We had some issues, and both issues with those shows were technical issues where the recording got lost on a drive that I had downloaded it on. So pretty proud of myself. You know, if you're the idea, inventor type of person, you're not the executor of the business, you would definitely understand and appreciate, like, you get really excited about these ideas and you're all in. And then you find out that there's actually work involved, and it's not as fun anymore because it's not new and exciting. And so pretty cool that I've made it to show 380 and Tucker has not taken me back off the mic yet. So this week, really cool show, and it's a full circle show. I have two guys, Noah Evans and Jeff Fawson. They are from Boise, Idaho. And I'll get into the full circle part here in a second. They are running a wholesale fix and flip, rental, and now development business out in Boise. They are crushing. The crazy thing is they just partnered up 9-10 months ago. They were both really good at something when they got together, and they're like, hey, why don't we work together? Jeff is a really good operator. He's built some houses, done remodels, done a lot of construction, and he's good at managing projects. Noah's a really good idea guy, and he is a good sales guy. And so he is really good at building out the marketing and sales teams and things like that. More of the inventor, idea guy, kind of like I am. So Noah and I have hit it off really well, and Jeff is an amazing guy as well. We talk a little bit about Jeff's story, and these are things I didn't know. And this is why I love my show, is I ask questions that most people won't ask, and I try to dive into some of these things. There's a perception out there in this world that in order to be successful, you have to be born with some opportunity or somebody coaching you, or have, different things that a lot of people don't have in order to be successful. Jeff takes that and kicks it in the teeth and totally proves that point wrong. Jeff grew up without a father around. His dad serving life in prison. He grew up in Portland, Oregon. He jumped around from house to house, trailer to trailer, was homeless for parts of his life, and was able to make it out of that world, and now is probably on his way, if he's not already there, to having $1 million net worth at 27 years old. And so he was a good student. He was kind of protected by his brothers and sisters, but he was able to get out of that world and find a way to be successful. So really cool hearing more about that from his story. And Noah, where it comes in full circle, Noah had called me about 3 years ago. He was driving, he was living in Yakima, Washington at the time, which is about an hour away from our house where I live. And he had heard me on one of the podcasts, either Bigger Pockets or The Real Dealz. And when he listened to me, he's like, man, this guy's really close to me. If he can do it, I can do it. So he Googled my number, found me, gave me a call. And I was kind of rude to him. Probably at the time, I was probably busy golfing. And I said, go listen to the first 50. I always tell people the first 50. He said 80, but usually the first 50 episodes of the Real Dealz podcast. I think Tucker is extremely smart, but I think the first 50 episodes are a roadmap on how to build a business. And I still give that advice today, because that's what I did. I listened to him multiple times. And he's like, and then I'm like, call me back after you do this. Well, nobody ever calls me back when I tell him that, but he did a week later. And then he got a deal. I helped him kind of through this deal down the road. Didn't really hear much from him after that point. And he was moving around because his wife's in medical school, just became a doctor, and now she's in residency. So they land in Boise, and I have a client in the call center that wanted to buy a bunch of houses in Boise. And so I still friends with Noah on Facebook. So I reached out to him, and we started talking and became friends. Well, we really dive into their story of how their partnership has really taken off and how well they're doing and all these different things they're doing, from buying rentals in Indiana and building a team out there to doing, 3 to 8 lot subdivisions that they're breaking off land off of a house, doing fix and flips, all these different things that they're doing. And it's just really, really cool how much they're growing. So I think this is a great show. It's not as long as normally we go into, but we get into a lot of details and a lot of nuggets of what they're doing in their business. And they're doing some pretty cool marketing things. They're running a TV ad and it's actually working really well. So make sure you listen about that. So what's going on with us this week? So not a ton new. We did lock up 2 deals though this week. So that's kind of exciting. I haven't locked up a deal for a little while. I've been traveling too much and we've been building out our systems. We switched from Podio to Forefront CRM. And so we've been, trying to build Podio out and we just couldn't get it to work right for us. So we just went to Forefront and seems like it's going to work really well. But so the first deal that we tied up is an older house in my home city of Richland. And we tied it up for a good price. It's a huge fix. So we're probably going to look at either picking up, taking it down and cleaning it up a little bit and wholetailing it and giving the retail or investors what they want, or we're going to try to wholesale it out most likely. So that could be a pretty good deal, I think. And then Tony and my partner Corey tied up a deal yesterday in Vancouver. We are just going to get paid out from him on that. We're going to pay Tony a fee for acquisitions fee, and then we're going to get a small wholesale fee because it's going to be more of like a buy and hold. It's something I just didn't want to be a part of and didn't want to put my money into. So just take a little bit of a fee there, and that should close in a couple weeks. So really good. My wife was telling me I needed to get more deals in the pipeline. So really good. When she told me that last week, we get 2 locked up this week. So now I look like a hero to my wife. So also looking at some other opportunities this week, we looked at a property that is already a multifamily property, has some land attached to it that we can build more density. So we met with the owner yesterday and went through a lot of different scenarios with him. So you always got to be open to new ideas. It's not always, hey, I'll pay you cash and we buy it there, especially when you have these retired or these landlords that probably want to retire. They have money. They don't want to pay capital gains taxes. There's ways to structure these deals. Can you structure a partnership? Can you structure option agreement? Can you structure owner carryback? The one idea though that I've been going into these owner carry conversations with sellers is I'm always looking out for what their best interest is. They are talking less now about the capital gains tax, but they were talking really heavily this year on raising the capital gains tax to like 40%. And so that is a huge difference. So when I'm talking about these owner carries where we're doing them to structure out and draw out capital gains tax over a few years, that you have to be willing, if they're going to implement and change that law, and if that law says, hey, it's any capital gains tax you've received or taxable capital gain income, not something that's, from grandfathered in, and they would have to pay a higher capital gains tax on that, you have to have a contingency in there and be ready to buy out that property before that happens. So you want to look out for your sellers in that example where is all of a sudden, hey, you say they're paying a 25% cap gains tax, then Biden comes in at a 40%, it takes into effect in 2022. Well, Mr. Seller, we got to close on it in 2021 because you're going to pay 15% more. Maybe we can structure a little bit better payoff deal in there if we do have to pay it off early. But you have to be willing and available to have the funds available to go do those things. So make sure you're thinking about that for the sellers. And if you tell the sellers that, it immediately gives you such a authority and a good rapport because they're like, oh, look, this guy's thinking about me and my financial situation and actually looking out what's best for me, not what's just best for him. So I think that's a really good tool to use in your tool belt right now with the things that are going on in the government. I don't want to dive too deep into it, but what they're talking about with the cap gains and taxes and all those things. So without further ado, let's get into this week's show. I think you're really, really going to like it. Here's a quick word from our sponsor, Ironbridge. Then we will catch you guys next week. Have a great weekend.
All right, Real Deals podcast listeners, I want to talk quickly about our show's sponsor, Ironbridge Lending. If you guys have not reached out to Ironbridge already to talk to them about funding some of your upcoming flip projects, I highly encourage you to do so. I've known the owner of Ironbridge for a very long time. I've personally borrowed millions of dollars from them over the years to do a number of different projects, and I can say without a doubt, they are the best hard money lending company I have ever come across, and that is the reason why they are the sole sponsor of this show. I've had a lot of other companies reach out to me and want to sponsor this show, but I just won't do it. I feel like I need to be genuine in who we have sponsoring the show, and it needs to be somebody that I've personally done a ton of business with. So I personally vouch for their ability to be the best, hands down, in the world of hard money lending. You won't find better programs, you won't find better terms, and they're lending or will be lending in over 20 states. So chances are, if you're hearing this in whatever state you're in, it's definitely worth it to check out their website, reach out to them, see if they're lending in your state, and if they are, I would absolutely encourage you to do business with them. Another very cool thing to note is that they have a program for most rehabs where you can actually borrow up to 90% of the purchase price. Now, this is given the fact that you are actually buying a deal, which if you're listening to the show, that means you probably are. But if you have an actual deal on the table, they'll fund up to 90% of your purchase price, and they'll even give you rehab funds on top of that, which means that it only takes 10% down to get into a project, which is unbelievable in the hard money world. So do yourself a favor, reach out to Ironbridge Lending, have a conversation with them, see if they're a good fit for you and for your next project. I can guarantee you that you'll be happy that you did.
What's going on, Real Deals podcast listeners? We are starting out show 380. And that is I think I'm in 45 episodes. And so, guys, pretty excited to have you on the show. I got Jeff Fawson and Noah Evans from Boise, Nampa, Idaho. They are crushing it out there. Got fix and flips. They got wholesale deals. They got development deals. They got rentals that got going. They got tons of stuff. And I don't even think that either one of them has had a shave yet. So that's pretty exciting. Why don't we guys jump in a little bit, talk about who you are, how you guys met up, and we'll start with you, Jeff.
Yeah, for sure. So I actually got started real estate investing in Portland about 7 years ago and kind of just did fix and flips on my own, one at a time. Didn't make much money doing it, though. It didn't turn out too well. I was the guy swinging the hammer, laying the floors, doing all that fun stuff. So I realized that wasn't what I wanted to do. I wasn't very good at it. So I started looking at how I could partner up with people and grow my business. Eventually wound up in Boise, Idaho. I had some failed partnerships that didn't work out because of bad expectations on what each partner was supposed to do on the front end. Both of us wanted to be like CEO, not on the job site, not doing stuff, not running projects. So those didn't work out. I linked up with Noah and the business just kind of blew up. It was like rocket fuel. And we went from doing like 2 or 3 flips at a time to we got 9 projects normally running about at a time, as well as some infill development stuff that we're doing. We started building a rental portfolio in Indiana this year. So we're just kind of trying to take our revenue from here in Boise, roll it over into smaller markets in the Midwest for long-term cash flow and build long-term wealth. So that's what we're doing now. That's how we got started. And yeah, that's where we're at.
And how old are you?
27 years old. And I did shave this morning, but there wasn't a lot of hair to shave. So
yeah. And did you go to college or anything?
Yeah, I went to I was like that on or off guy. Actually, in hindsight, I guess it's good I dropped out. I had a full ride scholarship, so I went, but I wasn't passionate about like what I wanted to do. I wanted to be like a high school history teacher with like, looking back at it now, like that was just kind of like the cop out. Like everybody wants to be a teacher because you grow up in school, so it seems natural and it seems easy. But yeah, I wasn't in it for the long haul. I dropped out after my freshman year.
Nice. Did you get a scholarship for figure skating or what? What was it?
No, actually, I grew up a real ghetto kid, so I wrote like a really compelling letter about like why I was so poor and why my life sucked, and that like I just really wrote this really good story about how shitty my life was, and because of that, they're like, "Wow, you have a horrible life and a 3.8 GPA. That's good enough to get a full ride scholarship." So
awesome.
Yeah, that's how I got it.
But was it a shitty life?
Yeah, I don't want to get too deep, but my dad's serving life in prison, and we grew up super poor. So, been around the block a couple times, but homeless a couple times, but we made it out. We're all right. Doing better now, creating wealth for the long-term family. So
we're going to dive back into that. So yeah, Noah, what about you?
What's up, man? First off, thanks for having us on the show.
Yeah, for sure.
Appreciate you bringing us on. So you guys will get a kick out of how I got started. So I finished up school at Southern Utah University, graduated with my marketing degree. It didn't do anything for me, and I was very unhappy at my corporate job. So I thought, how do I get out of this race, this rat race? I just wanted more for myself. I wanted more for my family. And most of all, I didn't want someone else controlling my day or who I choose to spend it with or how. Every year that my corporate job would tell me I could only take 2 weeks off, and I was gone for 4 weeks every December. the entire month. They never fired me. So anyways, when I moved out to Yakima, Washington, I started listening to real estate podcasts. Somehow I came across Elliot. I think it was either Bigger Pockets or it might have been this show. And so I was like, okay, this guy, it made it very real for me because you were so close. So I was like, okay, if he could do it and he's like an hour and a half away, then obviously this works. Like this is real and it works in this market.
And if this dumbass that I just listened on this show can do it, you know, then I can definitely do it because I got close to agree.
He made it.
Yeah.
So I like Googled you and like found your number somehow and called you. And we've talked about this story a lot, but I think it'd be really funny for the listeners to hear. So I called Elliot up. I was like, hey man, I want to get started in wholesaling. I don't know what to do. Can you point me in the right direction? And it may not have been word for word, but it was pretty dang close where you were like, dude, don't effing call me again until you've listened to the first like 80 episodes of Tucker Merrihew's podcast.
That's so funny.
It may not be word for word, but it's pretty dang close. But see, that didn't hurt my feelings. Like I knew like you were a person of value and your time was worth more than my time was, and that you just wanted me to take action. So I think I called you back like the next week and I was like, okay, I did it. And I need X, Y, and Z. And you gave me my first purchase and sales agreement. You walked me through how the title process worked. And you almost didn't believe me at first. I was like, no, I'm serious. Like I listened to all 80.
It was like Ellensburg. Weren't you doing something in Ellensburg?
My first partner was in Ellensburg.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then no, that contract actually helped me close my first deal. It took like another 6 months after that to go get something. But so that was my first bite of real estate. So it's just kind of cool that you were a part of that beginning journey. Yeah. And now here we are like 3 or 4 years later. And a lot has changed. So
yeah, it's funny. You know, I tell people all the time, people ask me for help and I tell them go do this. And it's probably more simple what I tell them to do now than that. Listen to those 80 shows. Yeah. And I'm like, I'll give you a free hour if you do these things for the next 2 months and then call me back. And nobody ever does. And it's just like, you're proof that if you just listen to something that somebody has to say and go take some action, then they want to help you.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. And honestly, that tough love was actually more so what I needed because like, have you been like, okay, you're going to need a purchase and sales agreement and this and this and this, you probably would have given it to me. And what are the chances that I would have done something with it versus having to go earn the knowledge myself? You know what I mean? So yeah, so I landed that first wholesale. After that, I was like, man, I can really scale this up, but I was still kind of scared. So I joined on with a mentor. I gave away 70% of the deal for like the next year. We did a handful of wholesales. Yeah. I probably never told you that. Yep.
He's like, you didn't hear that on the podcast.
I didn't get no percentage of that first deal. I feel robbed.
That first one was funny too, man. I talk about it I think I talked about it in my last podcast, but I actually didn't. I knew so little. I erased my name on the purchase and sales agreement and put the new buyer. Huh. So he literally, there's no record of that he needed to pay me for anything. And luckily he was an honest guy and he gave me my assignment, my $10,000 check, but he did not have to. There was nothing legal backing that up. So
how'd you get to Boise?
My wife's in medical school, so she's just been kind of dragging us all around the country. So when we moved here, I was like, that's it, I'm going all in. So I took the money I'd saved up from wholesaling. I bought a house, turned it into a duplex because I was like, I need the financial security to feel good about going into real estate full time. And in that process, I was interviewing contractors. So I met Jeff and his brother. They agreed to take on the job. And then through doing that, Jeff and I just formed a relationship. And then Jeff came to me with a project almost that same month. Yeah. And he's like, this is a funny story, actually. He's like, hey, if you bring like 20 grand to this flip, we can do something on it. So we structured out a partnership. I didn't have 20 grand, by the way. I just blew all my money on the rehab to the basement. But I told him I did. I had $5,000 left. That was it. And I had no money to pay my mortgage payment. So I gave him the full $5,000. I went to my friends and family. I got $5,000 from my cousin, who turns out he also didn't have the money. He used the money. He pulled out student loan. And then I went to one of my other buddies and I was like, hey man, I know you do pretty well in solar. Would you mind lending me some money for, 3 to 6 months? He gave me the other 10.
Nice.
So that's how Jeff and I did our first deal. And after that, I locked up like another one, and then we figured out the financing on it. And then before we knew it, we had like 3 going on at once. And I was like, this is crazy. I didn't even know I could flip a house. So.
How long you guys been doing it?
We partnered up right about midway through Q3 of last year. So just almost to a year of doing it together.
Nice. Awesome. Yep. So not super long, but you guys are rolling right along. Seem like you guys are figuring it out quite a bit. Yep. So I'm going to go back to Jeff for a minute, because one of the things that I think, is the misnomer of people thinking that you gotta be a certain type of person, and like nobody can, not everybody can do this. Like, we talk about opportunity. Like my dad talked to me about real estate growing up and things like that. And I just had more knowledge than most people, but you didn't, Jeff. You had, a dad in prison. You grew up, homeless. You're trying to figure out how to just live and not get shot probably. And, not get, but but you're just trying to figure out how to live and probably trying to eat and like, what, how do I look halfway decent at school? Right. So what got you going in this direction? Like, cause you started it 7 years ago. So when you're 20, basically.
Yeah. So, like growing up, I was always like I don't want to offend my siblings, but like, I was always the one that like the community would try and protect, right? Like, oh, Jeff has good grades. Oh, Jeff's good at sports. Like, let's try and shelter Jeff from what's going on. And like, I wasn't blind to it. Like, I knew like, hey, people are really looking out for me. And so like, my response to that was like, I need to be their provider then. Like, if they're going to sacrifice things and then like try and make sure that I have at least this little path that I can kind of be protected on and follow, then it's going to be my responsibility to provide for them. So I started looking at like little side hustles, like being a young kid, man. Like I would buy like candy bars from we had a little grocery outlet. You could buy like 3 candy bars for $1. And I would go and I would fib a little and say it was for Boy Scouts, but I'll go knock on doors and say, hey, I'm selling candy bars for $1.50 for Boy Scouts. So I just started making money that way. Like literally my mom worked so much, like that's how we would buy our dinner sometimes. Like we go down to Taco Bell and we spend the $6 on our little beefy 5-layer burritos that at the time were 89 cents, but inflation has killed that. They're now like $2. But so I always had that spirit about me. But like, so when I actually got fortunate though, like I'll never lie, like I had that drive in me, but then like I had opportunity come knocking and I just made sure I was going to capitalize on it. So I got engaged to my wife at the time. We got engaged when we were 19 and I started working her like practically her second dad owned a bunch of businesses. He owned like a lighting company, a roofing company, asbestos abatement company, just did all sorts of stuff in Portland. And then flipped houses like every once in a while. So he hired me and he literally called me like his puppy. Like that was what was on my job paperwork, was like I was the puppy and I was just to do like whatever they told me to do. Like literally the first week of working there, I crumpled up papers and threw them into a burn barrel. Like I ended up having to go to the doctors because I got carpal tunnel because I just sat there for 40 hours crumpling the paper and throwing it in. But I quickly realized like, man, this dude, like I just noticed like, hey, he takes time off when he wants. Like he has some freedom that like I don't want to live a life of like just barely getting by. And like, and in the back of my mind, I'm like, I still got like, my mom works 2 jobs. Like my brother's just down in Southern California in a rough spot. Like my sister's down there. Like somehow I got to figure out a way to like build a lifeline for these people, throw them something and bring them up with me. So I got really attracted to real estate and just happened to be a seminar blew through town. And I was like, dude, I can do that. There's no reason I cannot do that. And so I just actually went and like, I started studying like the path of progress in Portland and found like a neighborhood that was still pretty ghetto at the time, but that it was starting to gentrify and things were pushing out. So I started knocking on doors and I got my first deal that way and went back to this guy and said, hey, look, I'm going to quit. I can't work for your company anymore, but I know you really love real estate and it would be awesome if we partnered on this. And so like, that's how it worked out. Like I was a hustler and a grinder, but I also had the opportunity of having this guy in my life who, if he wasn't in my life, I don't know if it would have worked out the way it did. So yeah, but I'm a firm believer. Like I'm nothing special. Like
I think you're
not
special.
that intelligent.
But I'm special because I follow what other people say, right? Like I'm not highly intelligent. Like I can speak okay when I really want to, but like other than that, like I just take action and have consistency and do what people who are smarter than me tell me to do. And like that's what real estate for me really boils down to, is like find a mentor and follow their advice.
Yeah, I can agree with that. That's right. Yeah, I just had these guys and I say, go do this. And I'm like, okay. I tell a story all the time. The first, I met Taro Yarber on Bigger Pockets and he had posted, hey, I'm going to start buying houses in Portland. I need somebody to go run properties for me every now and then. And so I talked to him, I'll do it. And this is when I was working for Franz. And he's like, hey, I need to go take some photos of this property. It's like 800 square foot property in Southeast. And he's like, just make sure you get everything. I remember sending him a Dropbox link with 450 photos because I didn't want to miss anything. I just went above and beyond, right? Because 800 square foot house. I mean, I had so many photos in there.
He was like, bro, I didn't mean that many.
Yeah. And so then he told me something else to go do. And then I had other mentors go do this. And I'm like, I'm just dumb enough to just listen to you and not overthink it. Right. And so, yeah, it's, and same with you, Noah, you were just dumb enough to just say, okay, if this guy says I should go do it, he looks like he knows what he's doing, I'm going to go do it.
Yeah.
Right. And so now you hire a coach and you find somebody the next level up and the next level, this be smarter than me and tell me what I don't know.
Yep.
So, all right. Awesome, dude. Well, thanks for sharing a little bit of that I appreciate you sharing that. So
Yeah, for sure.
all right. So you guys now are in Boise and you guys got a bunch of stuff going on. Why don't you guys talk a little bit about what you got going on and then we'll dive into it a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're primarily like fix and flippers. We have somebody in our market who says it way smarter than that. She calls herself
Residential redeveloper.
Residential redeveloper.
That's
So
a fancy term.
I put that on my business card actually.
Did you?
Yeah, it sounds better, than saying a flipper. Like I'm a flipper of what? You have a mermaid tail? I don't know. So yeah, residential redeveloper. We are pretty consistently keeping about 9 active projects going at any one time. And then we really want that lifestyle piece of it, the freedom that comes from it. And flipping is awesome. Like we love flipping.
Yeah.
But flipping is like a Ferrari wealth vehicle, right? You can go really fast, but you cannot go that far. So we're taking the money and actually redeploying it into buy and hold rentals because that to me is what ultimately is going to create that freedom. So like my goal is that like by 30, if we really wanted to, we can completely never work another day in our life and our families will be fine. Now we're not going to. We both actually love, the industry and working hard, but we started in just this perspective for people who are wanting to get started too. We didn't, other than my duplex that I owned before our partnership, we didn't buy our first rental till January of this year.
Yep.
And we are at the end of this week, if these closings go through successfully, we'll be at 15 doors. We have another 10 here in Boise, in Nampa, Idaho, that we're trying to burr. We just need to find the financing for it, but we're already rehabbing it, adding value and putting better tenants in place. And then we have another duplex, Veterans Park, which is like this cool little trendy area of Boise. So all in, like we should be almost at, we'll be over 30 units by the end of the year, hopefully closer to 50.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, but I want to dive in a little bit because we might have some differences of how you get there. So you guys are buying, and we'll come back to some other stuff, but you guys are buying rentals in Indiana.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so, there's a lot of people that will go do this. So they're too expensive. Properties are too expensive in the market. They don't think they can cash flow. So they go to these other markets that are cash flow, but they're not really appreciating markets, right?
Correct.
Yeah. And so you tend to have there's other challenges, right? Just with everything, there's challenges, rehabs versus new construction. There's different challenges and ease. Some things are easier.
Yeah.
We Indiana? Yep. Why there? And why don't you stay in Boise and build your footprint in Boise?
Yeah, so we are building Boise as well, but it's not our main focus. We only build Boise if the burr strategy works well, just because the market has increased so much that the cap rates, people are buying it they're buying duplexes on cap rates out here and they're buying them at like 4.25 cap. So like the cash flow is just non-existent, and we just don't have, at the time being, we don't have the lender with the cheap enough money to make those work for us. But we're working on developing those and trying to set those up. But Indiana, we realized we had a strategic advantage there. So we were identifying some markets that we wanted to go into. A deal came along, and so we just started reaching out to people in those markets, some property managers, some lenders, stuff like that. And in Indiana, the package of properties we were looking at the time, they cash flowed great, and then everything just kind of lined up that we were wanting to line up. We got a realtor that was excited to work with us. We got a property manager who could run, not only just like be the property manager, but she'll run like fix and flips for us. So if we need to burr over there, she was ready to do the burrs. She has 2 of her own crews, and like she just kind of offers this full service program, as well as the lending, and then getting everything set up over there. Just kind of, it just lined up really well. Whereas like the other markets that we were looking at, like some of the deals penciled, but when we were calling property managers, we didn't have anybody that was excited to work with us or had a great program. So we stuck with Indiana because we just built that team successfully over there and decided to run with that team that we had set up pretty easily.
I think with remote markets, it's extremely important to go where you have a competitive advantage.
Yep.
And our property manager and our team there was our competitive advantage.
Yep.
So,
yeah. The one thing I'm going to challenge you on, though, because you guys have built a business where you've done a really good job at finding deals with equity, right? And I'll give you a quick example. We bought a duplex because duplexes in Vancouver don't really cash flow. Same idea. Vancouver, Portland, very similar in certain aspects.
Yeah.
But we bought a duplex over there that needed a ton of work. Bought it for 200, put like 70 in it. Let's say we're all in at 280, appraised it 395. We pull all our cash back out. We got private lenders to lend majority of everything. and we're cash flowing $1,200 a month, but we also have 100K, let's say 115K equity gain, right? Probably more now, right? So, if you're good at finding deals in Boise and creating that equity spread, you can still get some cash flow, right? And your equity gain on paper, which you can borrow against later, is going to be so much bigger than your cash flow. So I think there's such a balance between, like, because we're doing this not out of state, but it's such a balance between cash flow, cash now, and cash later, right? And true wealth, right? And so if you look at the life of Midwest, now I think they're still appreciating now a little bit, but if you look at life, you can still buy houses for $30,000 or $40,000, right?
Yeah. Yep.
When was the last time you could buy a house for $30,000 in Boise?
Right. Yeah. Well,
actually, not too long ago. No, probably like 10. But we are still buying here if the deal makes sense. So we have a duplex that we're refinancing. We got that 10 unit that we're gonna figure out how to refinance that. We got
duplex on owner carry.
Yeah, but it's the owner carry. But we already have the lender set up to do that. We have a lender in our local market for 4s and unders. So we are now partnering with the arbitrage company too to Airbnb some of our stuff in trendier neighborhoods. So we have a 2-house set up on 1 acre in Meridian that we're holding on to for future development potential. But we're going to refinance that, arbitrage that out, keep that on Airbnb. The duplex in Boise will do the same. And then we have a house with the ADU on the bench that we're going to refinance and keep here as well. Because like the appreciation gain here it'd be stupid if you can get a little bit of cash flow. Like our cash flow here doesn't need to be anything near where it is in the Midwest, because we know we have the upside of the appreciation. So if it makes sense, we're still doing it. It's just not our primary focus.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's jump into partnerships. So you guys are not even a year into your partnership. I partner with a lot of people. Partnerships are really hard. Tucker, if you people listen to Tucker over the years, he doesn't do partnerships. Well, he's partnering with me now, but on the real estate side, he doesn't do partnerships, right?
Yep.
So because it's very difficult to find somebody that matches your energy or your give a shit level, right?
Yeah.
And if you do, sometimes that partner tends to be similar to you. And so if you have 2 partners that are the same, you only need one of those. You don't need the 2 of the same guys. So how have you guys structured responsibilities? How have you guys found ways to work well together? How have you integrated that?
Yeah, I would say that it's a day by day thing for you know what I mean? Like, it's not that it's always easy, but I think we complement each other really well. So, and then I on top of that, I would also say that we both just have the same long-term goal. Like, we want to build a massive business that impacts people in a positive way, that the community benefits from the things that we're doing. And, we want to live a life of being able to have freedom and give other people freedom too. So the common end goal, I think, is what aligns us and allows us to work together well. And then as far as skills and stuff like that, or like roles and responsibilities, I would say we definitely have a long way to go in assigning that properly.
Yeah.
What does it currently look like?
So I oversee the project management, the operations. There is some bleed over that we both have right now, but it's just because we started to scale and we're like, okay, let's now. And this is where this is one of the reasons I believe in our partnership is we don't just say, hey, what do you think and what do I think? We come to guys like you and we say, hey, Elliot, look at our strength finder test and tell us who would be better at this role. Or we go to our mentors in Ohio and say, hey, you give us the feedback. And we're we're just dumb guys who want to be successful, so we'll follow what you say. Yep. So right now we're redefining some of those roles, but I oversee the operations, construction, budgets, communicating with our main mortgage lender and making sure they have all the documents to line up the projects, get our scope of works done, and then get our money coming in because our rehab loans are traditional rehab loans from a hard money lender. So we're recouping those throughout the course of the project. So I stay on top of this. Yeah, I'm operations, and then Noah handles, we both confirm marketing, but Noah definitely oversees our marketing channel more. And then we had both been splitting sales, but now it's to the point that the company's growing and we're bringing in follow-up specialists and acquisitions. So Noah's taking on the role of training those guys. So
seems like you guys got it separated pretty well.
Yeah. And I think that's a new thing as we've scaled so quickly that we were 2 months ago, we would have been freaking deer in the headlights if you asked us that question. I don't know, Jeff is just good at what he does and Noah's good at what he does, but could we tell you what that is? But now that we're scaling and we're starting to put in processes and procedures and bring in we grew from a company of 2 guys to we're about to have 6 or 7 people in-house on the investment side within the next month. So now it's it can't just be Noah and Jeff. This is an actual company. You define your roles, you build your processes and procedures and make sure people are in place to do what they're supposed to do. And we're just being smart about who oversees those people based on their skill sets.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
Yeah.
How do you guys, who likes to work more?
I would say we both do. The one thing I would say is Noah's much more of a studier. I'm a very if there's something like I'm on my laptop every night before going to bed, like responding to emails, staying up on like the day-to-day stuff, and like Noah's much more of a visionary, but it's never just like he's dreaming in the clouds. Like he's always thinking, okay, I know we have 200K coming in from these flips this month. That means that we can roll that and partner up with these specific guys and go and do this out of state or do this in our local market. So that, and I think that's one of the great things about our partnership is we both love, like we get so excited about this industry. Like we call each other at 10 o'clock at night and my wife's like, what the heck are you doing? I'm like, bro, we're talking about a deal. It just is what it is. Like we both love working and making money and trying to grind this out in this next 3 to 5 years while we build this wealth vehicle.
And if I get granular, I think on like what like the whole rocket fuel part of our partnership has been, it's been that, you know, I get to plug and play into the flip business, but still go out and come up with all these new marketing ideas of how we're going to reach people, how creative we can be on finding money, how to creatively structure deals. Whereas if I didn't have Jeff as a partner, my energy and my decision-making capacity would be spent on running projects, not running the business. So, or coming up with new ideas for our business. So,
who reins you guys in? Who reins you in from overspending, too many crazy ideas, too many different directions?
I'm pretty open. I mean, you know, Jeff does an awesome job of being like, hey, I think we should slow down. I think we should wait. I think we should see how this bootstraps, right? Being like, okay, before we go drop another 5K on a new marketing channel, let's wait and see what our KPI comes back on the cold calling we started or this mail campaign that we did. I would say Jeff does a good job of doing that.
Yeah, I'm the rainer. I like to stay laser focused. Like we are a fix and flip company who redeploy money into long-term rentals. It's that simple. And infill, but that's just if it's a part of a flip. So like I stay very laser focused on that. And if it doesn't fit that bucket, then we're not doing it.
Yeah, that's like we kind of made Chrissy the CEO this year of our fix and flip business and our business in general with all the rentals and the development and stuff like that. And we basically call her the leash, and it's not a bad thing. It's not a negative connotation, but she has to pull me back on my leash sometimes and say, whoa, what the hell are you doing? Like, Elliot, look how much money you spent on this podcast room or this type of marketing or this thing and this thing. And like, are you monetizing it? Like, or are you just sitting there lighting money on fire? Because you're doing 10 different things, right?
Yeah.
I would say, though, that there's sometimes a benefit to charging ahead and not knowing exactly what you're getting into. And I would say that benefit is you learn as you go. One of our mentors, her like full mentality is she's ready, fire, aim. And she has blown her business out of the water. Like they did $500,000 in profit last month. They're on track to do $5 million this year. Now, I agree, though. There needs to be somebody that's like, okay, hey, you're fine to charge ahead, but are we looking at all the angles? Are we making sure that it has an ROI on what you're doing?
Yeah. And I really think the idea behind it is I want to be here for the long term. Yeah. And everybody looks really good until they get punched in the face. Yeah. Right. Everybody looks really good until this market shifts or something happens. We got lucky last year with COVID that it kind of ran right through. Everybody looks like a genius. I mean, we have one deal that we bought that we probably weren't going to do that good on. We overpaid for it a little bit and the market just bailed us out. We're going to make 60. Right. And so, you know, different market cycle, different time, you know, we're looking a lot dumber in that situation. Same with all these development, all these things. And so I think it's really easy in this market for Noah, guys like you and I to just push, because we're so positive, right? We're so glass is half full. No, the glass is overfilling with all these opportunities. I'm gonna push. And if you don't have somebody to say, whoa, let's make sure we build a solid foundation and make sure we're not just blowing money, then I think you're here for the long term, right? And that's gonna be an important thought.
Yeah. And what's funny about it though is like I would totally agree. Like I'm definitely the leash guy, but I would also say that we both agree that I'm probably the bigger risk taker on a per deal basis.
Yeah, on a per deal basis.
I will because if like I just understand like all I know is fix and flip real estate, and then like now I'm starting to figure out the rental type stuff. Like fix and flips don't scare me. Like we just bought a house that didn't even have a floor. Like you walk in the front door and you drop in the basement, and I'm not scared at all. Like I'm just not risk averse in that area. Whereas like Noah's like, whoa, what the heck are we doing? But it's
a good balance.
Yeah, it's a great balance to have. But then it's very interesting that then he's not the leash guy and I'm the leash guy, and I'm just like, nope, we stay focused here. We'll take massive risk here, but this is kind of the path that we stay focused on.
Yeah, it's the devil, right? In the end of the day, you know this, you know your numbers. And that's the thing when you start getting into multifamily or development or things that what I found out is I don't know the numbers that well. So I get really nervous and I'm a lot more conservative. The more I know, like on fix and flips and things like this, if I can nail my numbers to a T, I can be more confident paying more. But when you don't know what the hell you're doing, you build in a buffer and then you don't get the deal. And you're like, you see this deal done 3 years later or 2 years later. And you're like, shit, I should have bought that deal. Those guys crushed it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's sometimes where we're building out like a spreadsheet on like some of these infill projects, and it's like it literally just says like buffer with question marks.
Yeah.
Don't know what I'm doing. 100K buffer. And it's like in an infill, luckily, if it's like a 6 to 8 lot infill, like 100K is a good buffer to have. But like if you're talking about a 2 or 3 unit infill, like the 100K could be the difference of whether or not you took that deal down or not. And so like you got to really know those numbers and know where you're at, or bring in somebody who does. So
that's kind of hard.
Yeah, the problem right now with those is construction costs construction costs and timelines are really throwing a wrench in that deal.
Yep.
Yeah, 100%. We're just looking to do the land development piece and get out and let the builders scratch their heads with the headaches, man. They got better systems on that side than we do. So
yeah, and they have more, usually the bigger builders have more projects that can spread their risk around. They make smaller margins.
Yeah. Yep.
So what have you guys found like the best, and this isn't in any way meant to plug for me in no way at all, but like you guys are using us for marketing, for cold calling, using our data, but what have you guys found? I know you're doing a radio ad or a TV ad. I think you did some direct mail, cold calling probably yourself a little bit. What have you guys found that's working really good for you right now?
Yeah.
Obviously the cold calling is phenomenal because one, it takes a lot off of our plate for acquisitions. We get a hot lead. The hot lead comes in. We talk to them. It's either a yes now or a maybe later or a no.
Yeah.
It's just one of 3 buckets, right? So simplifying that side of it has definitely helped us to scale up. But I would say like becoming like a local market authority.
Yeah.
And I would say that we've primarily done that through giving value to other people. Like I'll let agents double end deals if they bring me something off market. They can take the full 6% commission. I could care less. I would rather them succeed and bring me a deal, and then we can close it and everybody wins. So for example, I got 3 leads yesterday from agents, all off market, all distressed.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's just a year of grinding it out and helping other people, whether it be teaching them how to analyze a property and see what it's going to be worth as a flip, or letting people double end the deals or cutting people in on something. Becoming a markets authority is definitely the primary lead source.
I would say that's our primary like organic lead source. And then like as far as like an actual marketing channel, like Driving for Dollars has the best bang for buck so far for us. Like money split to leads in. We had 1 month where we literally got like 3 Driving for Dollars deals, and they were all 60K flips. And it was like our second month using the Deal Machine app. So we've had really successful results with the Driving for Dollars.
Yeah.
But yeah, the cold calls and TV commercial, like just last month, like they were doing okay, and then like last month they just like all of a sudden we're like we have literally like 6 deals under contract right now with like 4 to 6 more that like we're negotiating over pennies. Like we could be at like 10 deals under contract.
Like how many would you say are from the radio ad versus the cold calling?
So ours is a TV ad, but I think 2 are only from the TV ad. 2 are from a different marketing system that one of our acquisitions guy plugged us into. 2 are word of mouth, and then 4 are the cold calls.
Nice.
Navigate.
Yeah, it's good that you're diverse.
And I mean, man, the first.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say the first deal we got from your cold calling system, like we're closing it in a couple weeks, but that thing's a 7-figure spread build deal. Like I was so anti-cold. I was like, man, I just have always been like an organic guy, like wholesalers send me deals, or I'm an authority in my market. People know I'm serious and I'll close, and that works. But in this market cycle that we've been in, like that just disappeared. Nobody was wholesaling. Like you were literally like wholesalers became wholesalers. They bought it and they put it on market and they made a huge spread. Like, so deals really dried up, and it was like, we have to spend money on marketing. And I remember being so scared, like, dude, I don't want to go and drop a bunch of money on marketing. Like, what if it doesn't work out? And then we got that deal. I was like, we just paid for marketing for 10 years. We're all good.
Yeah. Cause you literally you bought all the market. You cut me a $10,000 check for data. You cut me another $3,400 for the calling. So right there in the first, before we even get one lead in the door, you're 13, 14 grand in this deal. So it's scary. I mean, at the end of the day, it's scary. And you're like, okay, I trust Elliot. To make it right or whatever, we'll figure it out. We got good systems. But the key with the cold calling and why it works really well for some people like yourself and some people it doesn't work well is you have systems and you follow up and you have a process and a plan in place, and you're relentless and you work every lead really, really well. And if you don't do that, this does not work well.
Yep.
I get so creative on the phone. I get juiced up about that. Like there was one lead. It was a new construction. The guy bought the house last year. A part of me wanted to hang up right away. I was like, "There's nothing I can do for you. Like the house is too new. I can't buy off last year's value and make money this year."
Yeah.
So I stayed on the phone with him. Turns out he owns the entire thing free and clear. We may still get the deal. We may not. Doesn't matter. The point of the story is that you can be creative, right? But so he owned the entire thing. I was like, okay, so what? You sell your house. Let's say I could buy it for what you want. What are you going to do with the money? He's like, well, my savings account gets a really great interest rate. I'm like, well, okay, so how much are you going to make off putting $400,000 in the bank? He's like, I'm going to make about $500 a month. It's going to be awesome. I'm like, oh, you're going to make $500 a month. Okay. I was like, okay, so if I could pay you $1,200 a month, does that change the game? Does that change how we structure this deal? He's like, you would pay me $1,200 a month? I'm like, yeah. So we were going to do some type of like contract for land or contract for deed or whatever. And I'm basically just going to rent the house for a year, close on it in a year, pay him $1,200 a month. And in a year, we're banking on appreciation. If nothing else happens, we sell it for what we're in it for.
Yeah, and market rent's like $1,600.
Yeah.
Airbnb arbitrage is like 22, 23.
I could have cash flowed like $500 or $600 a month on it.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
just the idea of being creative. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah, like there's so many different opportunities. You can pit people into so many different buckets. It's just a volume game.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about, you guys got some development stuff that's actually pretty interesting. We talked a little bit yesterday with my guy that I'm doing some development house build stuff with, and we're spitballing some ideas for you. But tell us about like how those kind of landed in your lap and how you're taking advantage of some leads that most people might have missed.
Yeah, so I did some infill stuff back when I was in Portland. So I'm not like, I was never afraid of it. I get really excited when there's like a large land piece that comes across, and we're also just like, we're very plugged into the Treasure Valley community of like what's happening in our market. And there's some large national builders who have been very outright and saying like, we're coming to your market, we're taking over your market, and we will push out anybody who's not a national builder and can't compete with us. So all like the smaller builders are kind of panicking and they're like, well, I guess we're going to not be able to buy those 50 unit subdivisions anymore. So we're going to have to start like either JVing on those, or we're going to have to start buying like little infill projects like 8 to 10 lots. So as soon as we heard that, we were in this meeting with like how they were trying to reposition and look at these smaller deals, and they were letting us know numbers on this. We're like, dude, we just got to like grab anything that fits that box, because we know that there's going to be a huge demand for it now because they're doing. It was a meeting. It was just here at one of the local brokerages that Noah is a part of. And they had Level Up Capital came and had a bunch of local builders and their agents come and just kind of talk about market conditions and what was going on. So they invited us to sit in on it. And I was just like, man, we just had this Lone Star project. We had like 3 or 4 that we were negotiating. So it was just good to kind of like hear what numbers, because for us, we're not really builders. So we don't know the numbers that they'll buy at. We don't know like what kind of percentages or cash on cash they're looking for in this type of stuff. So we're like, all right, how's this going to work? So being in that meeting, we really learned the numbers that we needed to be at to make it work for them. And so then we just got a little more aggressive when we were on the phone with those sellers that we knew had potential to have splits. And, but I guess in our mindset, we got a little more aggressive. But in the deals we ended up getting, we're like buying for like the flip. If we just flipped the house and didn't split the lot, like we're making 25, 30 grand. It's not a good flip. We would never take it on. But we're doing that and then still ending up with like anywhere from 3 to 8 lots is what we're looking at right now. So our goal is to try and break even on the flip and then just have this parcel that's been split off and then is now going through its own little PUD process or minor land division. One of them we're annexing into the city. So we're trying to get into the raw dirt at $0 is our goal before land development, which then just gives us a huge profit margin when we're going to look to sell these to developers or to builders.
Yeah, that's an amazing, and it's funny because you'll look and sometimes maybe when you're newer and I was newer and you look and these guys be like, man, how can they pay this much money for this? And then all of a sudden, a couple of years later, you see why. Yeah. Because, they're doing what you just did. Right. And so you have a leg up and they're like, man, these flippers or these guys are idiots. I can't compete with them. They're overpaying for everything. Well, no, you just have to move upstream. You got to find, there's a book called Who Moved My Cheese. You got to find who moved your cheese, and you can't just keep doing things the same way every day, day in and out. Right.
Yep.
So why don't you talk a little bit about just so people know why don't you talk a little bit about what the builders are, what you learned in that meeting, like break down some numbers on like what they're willing to pay, what kind of returns are they looking for? What kind of financing are they getting?
Yeah. So ours is very specific to like the group of builders that we met with.
Yeah.
So Noah, you want to run through the numbers? You want me to?
You can.
All right, cool.
I don't remember. I don't remember specific details. I remember
it boiled
concepts.
down to like the traditional goal was to buy the land at a fifth of what if it's build ready, like utilities there ready to go, a fifth of what the back end value would be. Now they're willing to have those numbers be a little bit tighter. So we're looking at, like, for example, this project that we're looking at, back end lots are anywhere from 550, or back end houses are 550 to 575. So it would give like a lot price, traditional lot price of 110 to 120 and some change.
I was going to do the calculator for you.
Yeah, because
I did the math the other day,
because traditionally they wanted to be in the lots at 18 to 23% is usually what I found out based on conditions.
Yeah.
That's where they kind of want to be.
Yeah, and that's about a fifth, right? I'm not great at math,
Fifth
but
is 20%.
Yeah,
it's
20%. Yeah.
yeah. So right about there is like traditionally where they wanted to be, but now because of this market squeeze, and this is probably just a local Treasure Valley thing, but because of this market squeeze that's happening, they know that they need to get lots and they need to get runway, because the runway that they used to have isn't available anymore, because you got Menards and D.R. Horton who are coming in and literally like paying like, we just saw this article the other day that CBH, one of the local builders, he just like kind of put his foot down and he's like, I'm not going to lose. He paid 6 times the assessed value or the appraised value of the land to get that land, and it's just raw acreage right now. So like, this is the type of stuff that's happening where like some of these other small builders, they're not going to be getting these subdivisions anymore. They have to go to this infill sector. And so because of this, the price that was getting floated around to us is, okay, if the normal value is about 125, you could squeeze 145, 155 out of that if it's a real easy, smooth type of build. So those are the numbers. Normally they're looking, the number we were given, and again, this is not our area. This is just what the people who are helping us dispo these are telling us, that they're looking for about 100K spread on a build before like their costs. So that includes their marketing costs, like any payroll that they have going into it, just outside of like actual build cost. Yeah. So that's the numbers that we've been getting. And so we just kind of run our numbers backwards based on that.
Yeah, because what I found out when I was diving, same thing. You're learning as you're going is.
Yeah.
So there's different types. There's developers, guys that traditionally have just bought big pieces of dirt, this 50 lot subdivision, put the infrastructure in and sell the lots, right?
Yep.
Those are the developers. Those developers, like the one I know in my town, he wants to make 30%. That's his goal, is to make 30% on the development. Then you have your builders that want to make typically 20 to 30% as well, right? So say you're at 50%. What these national guys are doing, or these regional guys like Hayden or, Polish and these guys, right? They'll come in and they'll skinny their margins and they'll say, okay, instead of 30%, I'll make 10% on the development. And instead of 25% on the build or 30% on the build, because we have so much more efficiencies than you, we'll cut that down to 15%. So they're literally going to be, because they're a developer builder, they literally can be at 25%, 20 to 25% net on the whole project, right? They got cheaper financing, they got bigger efficiencies because they can build houses faster, better, stronger, right? And so you're saying, okay, they'll do it at 25%. I'm trying to do it total at 55%. You'll never win. On a $1 million or $2 million deal, I mean, that's a huge. Even if you built the best rapport in the world with the seller, I mean, the best. They could be your mom, and she's gonna say, "I'm selling to these guys," right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's just kind of how it is. So you have to find these opportunities, like you guys have found, is like these houses that have land attached to them, if you can get them, and things like that, and to be competitive, or go to the outskirts a little bit where they're not at yet, right? You got to stay ahead of them.
Yeah, and so the thing we're really trying to push with these guys is like kind of a pseudo partnership, I guess. So like, we're taking down the deals, we'll do the flip, and then they're going to put up the money for the land development as a down payment on the lot option to then buy the lots at that 150 price. So we have our buyer lined up. We also had their 100 grand, which 100 grand, is that the right word? 100 grand, that was weird. Just sounded so weird.
Candy bar?
I was like, that was a candy bar, bro. So we got their 100K, and we're using that for the land development costs. So it's reducing our skin in the game. I mean, they can pull out on that lot option, and then you got to pay it back within 90 days or whatever. But they got that 100K in there that's covering your land development. They're then buying it, and then they're taking over the build at that point. So once land's ready to go, they'll do the build. We don't have anything involved in the build. We cashed out on the front end, but then we're lining ourselves up. Noah has his license, and we have an in-house realtor underneath him now. So we're lining up full 3% commissions on the back end listings, and then we're paying our goal is to negotiate like a flat fee, 1 to 2K per house for our in-house agent, and collect another 18, 20 grand spread per house on just the commission side. So
Noah, when you listen to those first 80 episodes of The Real Deals, I can hear Tucker when you're talking right now, Jeff. I can hear Tucker in the back of my head. You control your destiny by finding off-market deals, right?
Mhm.
These builders that were sitting in there scared out of their boots is they don't know how to find off-market deals. They don't know how to put deals together. They're so used to buying deals on the market that now all of a sudden you guys have them over a barrel because you control the deal.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's funny. I hear him in so many different podcasts, but I hear him in the back of my head. Right. You know, you can hear this thing, you know, he's talking about getting financing on Ironbridge or whatever. And he's like, you know, if you have a good deal, which if you're listening to the show, most of you probably do have a good deal, right? Because you've specialized in off market, right? Because he's been teaching you off market deal structuring. And so it's very interesting, but that's exactly what is needed right now. And it's the more competitive this environment has become, the better and more strategic you guys have got. And you've had to deploy more money to marketing. Yeah, your spreads, but when you get them, your spreads are way bigger.
Yeah.
But you've just gone all in. People are scared to spend that money on marketing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting concept because it's like we talked about that earlier. Like I'm conservative on the flips and I'll bring down our back end values, but on the marketing stuff, I'm all in. Like it's all proven concepts. And especially like when we get to talk to, you about stuff like this, like I reached out, I was like back in maybe February or January. And I started talking about, hey dude, we need to get on like mailing and figuring out a sniper campaign for developable land that we can then turn and do these type of things with builders. Yeah. You've got some really cool stuff that you do on that end that I'm excited to get into, but
yeah, the problem, I think at the time I said I had no time. I'm so busy. But we want to talk about like, how do you get on it? And we can talk more offline, but really it's just, how do you get very niche in what you're going after? And then just send a really high quality mail, right? At the end of the day, people that are watching this on YouTube or on Instagram, we have really high quality mail that's, handwritten, right? Handwritten mailers really stands out. We have different, here's another mailer that really stands out, right? It's different. Everything's different. There's, how do you stand out and spend more money on marketing? So there's a sniper approach and there's a machine gun approach, right? Cold calling is machine gun, really targeted stuff is sniper.
Yeah. Yep. We even we were kind of skeptical about the TV commercial, and fortunately it kicked off a deal in like its first 2 weeks as well. So we're making like 60, 70 grand from that. And we're like, okay, that'll cover it. That literally covers the commercial costs and makes us 30 grand on the year. So we're going to keep it and run it for a year. Just until like last week, we hadn't really had any more leads come in from it. But what we have noticed is like when we send out our mailers, we're getting more calls because we put our faces on there and said, as seen on TV, or the guys from TV. And we get calls and people are like, oh, I've been meaning to call you. I saw the commercial. And then I got your postcard. Or we're on the phone with some of these cold call leads and we're like, hey, this is Jeff with Tree City Home Buyers. And like, are you the guys from the commercial? And so like, it's funny, like the commercial hasn't kicked up a ton of leads, but it's added this credibility to now there's this extra layer where people recognize us and like automatically that feels familiar to them. Like they want to work with me more than they want to work with the other guy calling because they've seen me on TV. They know I'm local to the Treasure Valley. They may have gotten a postcard.
Yeah, we've built more trust.
Yeah, we get sometimes some of these people, we already have 2 touches before we even get on the phone with them. Like, it takes three touches to have a chance at closing a deal. I got 2 touches before I've even talked to him. And now I get on the phone and that's the 3rd touch already. So I think that's worked out really well. We've heard that time and time again. And like it's opened up our investor line. Like people see you on TV and like, if somebody says, hey, you might know this because you're a marketing guy, but the traditional person, if you say, hey, I'm on a TV commercial, the only price that people associate with TV commercials is Super Bowl ads. Like that's the only thing that an average American does. So they assume that this TV commercial is super expensive. And then they assume that if it's super expensive, you must be freaking killing it, which we're doing pretty good, but not enough to go and drop $20,000, $30,000 a month on a commercial like somebody thinks we're spending. And so it just adds this credibility factor. And it's just been crazy to see what that does like in every area of the business, like money lending, relationships, deal flow, all that type of stuff. So
that's awesome. What did the TV commercial explain that? I've heard some guys doing it.
If you saw it, you would literally pee yourself, bro.
It's Wow commercial.
It's so corny, but that's what's so brilliant about it. It's nothing special.
Hey, this is Noah.
No, get out of here.
This is Jeff with Tree City Home Buyers, and we're looking to buy homes in the Treasure Valley for cash now.
We pay with cash, fast. Call 208-900-CASH. Like, it's literally like, that's the voice. It's very cheesy, but like, we signed up for a program, and this is the commercial. There's like 3 commercials that work. Like, the guy does a lot of testing behind it, deploys his commercial into multiple markets, different airtime. So it's like, we're just going to trust you and copy and paste. It has worked out, but it is. If I have people who see it and they're like, bro, you are so cheesy.
That's funny. I was talking to a guy about doing radio ads a couple months ago. And one of the things, I was in some mood that day and I'm like, what if we were to get a vanity number that was like 783 dead and was like, did grandma die? Call 783 dead. You know, do you need to get rid of grandma's house? Call 783 dead.
Oh my goodness, bro.
I was like, we talked for like 20 minutes. I'm like all up on this commercial. I'm ready to go. I tell Christy, she's like, fuck you. No.
She was like,
That's the dumbest thing I've ever
I'm
heard.
letting you launch that.
Oh, I freaking love it. Dude, we had a guy on our show, like, it was our first episode we aired, and he was telling the story of how he got his first house. And I just remember, like, he did a really good job not being insensitive, but I was like, for people who don't know real estate, they might listen to this and be like, wow, these guys are jerks. Because he was like, yeah, this old lady died.
It was really cool. And he's like, oh, it's not cool that she died.
Yeah.
That's not the part that's cool.
The deal was cool, not the old lady dying was cool. But yeah, that's funny, man. You would have definitely been well known for that commercial. Probably not in a good way, though.
Yeah, I don't know. Tucker, I got the idea because Tucker ran one. I ran an ad for a while. Did your house smell like grandma or something like that? Or something. And he said it worked, but you also, in Portland, you know, you got a bunch of hate mail, you know, hate people angry or whatever. So luckily we're not in Portland. So anyway, what would you guys say? We're wrapping up here. What, you know, and you guys are newer in the business. Jeff, you've been doing it for a little bit longer than I have, but your partnership's green.
Yeah.
What would you say the biggest challenge that you guys are facing right now is?
Oh, you want to go first? I got to go.
Yeah.
You can go.
I mean, I actually think about this pretty often. I would say it's twofold. Recruiting good people and knowing whether or not I am judging those people successfully in the interview to put them in the right seat. That's my first biggest issue right now. I mean, we're doing a massive undertaking on bringing on people. And then the second part I would say is being able to balance the scaling of growing our business and also growing the private capital that we infuse into the business. So, I mean, it's like every single time we're proud of ourselves, we're like, holy crap, we just did a really good job. Then all of a sudden we have more projects, then we have money again. And I guess we need to go raise more money.
Never ending.
It's a never ending.
Like 2 weeks ago, we were like, we have so much private money. And now we have like 10 deals up on our potentials board. And we're like, we don't have any private monies.
Yeah. And then it's weird too, because it's like I feel like I like build myself. I build both of us up to where like we're outsourcing, you know, our roles and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden it feels like we get pulled back in. Yeah. And then we're working in the business instead of on it. And so, you know, I think that I guess that summarizes the three biggest challenges for me right now.
And I echo that second one. I definitely feel like we get dragged back into performing in our roles rather than like overseeing our roles. And that's just like a growing pain of scaling, right? But then like for me, the biggest hurdle, and it's like we were very good at our roles, but now that's no longer important. Like if I want to be good at operations forever, like that's fine. Like maybe we'll do $2 million in revenue every year, but I'm going to be working every single day on this business. So now it's like I got to become a very good leader of people, which is so much different than what I was doing before. Like before I was just being like a high level employee and I just happened to work for myself. Like I was good at my job, but now I need to be good at making sure other people are good at their job and leading and casting vision and showing them like what our purpose is and what's our why and like getting people motivated and then also holding them accountable without being a dick. Like if I'm blunt, like that's the hardest part. Like I'm either a pushover or an asshole. There's no in between, Jeff. Like I either like let you run over me or I just respond in like anger and resentment. And like as a good leader, you can't do that. So like that's like just on a personal level, like that's the biggest thing for me is like learning to navigate that and do that much more successfully.
If I was going to pay one person, and I have, but if I was going to pay one person in this world that I've met, and I've met a lot of different people in the real estate space, right? Business space, to learn how to be a leader, to teach me how to grow and hire people and be a leader, it'd be Tucker Merrihew.
Really?
Honestly, I talk about it all often. And, you know, watching him over the last year in this call center, handle situations, handle my emotional swings, handle Cole being, 22, 23, just normal stuff that's, nothing good or bad in a sense. It's just being a guy that has experience, but knows how to be a leader. I literally would go to battle for that guy any day of the week. I just don't want to let him down. And he's an equal partner. He's not my boss, but he's kind of the boss. We've made him the boss because that's who his role is. Right. Yeah. And I never have to question how much he's working. I don't care. All these things. I literally tell people all the time, I would literally wipe shit off his shoes to learn from this guy. Kind of the same way you said you were crumpling paper for that guy earlier. You just want to learn. You're doing something right. Yep. So finding guys and mentors like that are, 5-10 years ahead of you that have done multiple businesses that maybe have failed. Tucker's had a few failed, things, and find that guy. Also, my partner, Corey, he's taught me how to be a leader, but more, he's taught me a lot on how to be a good husband, a good father, a good friend, and how to be, not take things too seriously, and how to shut up when I need to shut up, and, just teach me, like, been a dad. So,
what are some of those things that you see in Tucker that make him such a great leader?
He's very even keel. So he's not too many highs and not too many lows. Like when we have something really good happen, like you can tell he's happy and excited, but it's like not like me where I'm emotional roller coaster. And when someone challenges, you don't feel like he's mad at you, but you feel like if you disappointed him, kind of like that father figure, right? When Cole and I have similar opinions on whatever direction we want to go, he doesn't even make an opinion. He just says, okay, if that's what you guys want to do, let's go with that. I trust you guys. He gives us trust to go do what we want to do. He gives us rope to, go hang ourselves or screw something up. When Cole and I are fighting about something in a competitive way where he thinks it should be one way and I think it should be another way, Tucker will just make a decision, and we just both respect him in the sense of that's the decision. And once he makes the decision, it's done. He's fair to people. He's methodical. He's well thought out. He's not quick to make decisions. So he'll think things through really well. And he just, he's a good person. I think, I think if I called him and I said, I have a fire, I need your help right now, he'd be there for me. So you just trust him. You just trust him.
That's good, man.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Appreciate you sharing that with us.
So anybody out there, I know he does some little coaching for real estate stuff, but the best money I've ever spent was giving it to Tucker, being part of the DFA, getting around that networking group of guys. I've paid Tucker a couple times throughout the years, Chris and I, just to do like a 3-part coaching for going over our business. He always gave way more value than we paid him, probably. But we have a lot, and it continues every day to owe him a lot.
Yeah, for sure. That's rad.
It's been actually really cool just to see the progression of now you run this show.
Yeah, that's
what I mean?
Rad.
And what was the relationship of you and Tucker like when I met you, like in 2016?
It was very just, I'm in his DFA group. He'll talk to me. He would call me back every now and then if I called him, but I didn't really bug him. There was not a much, interaction other than like on the DFA. Unless I needed something, he was always really quick to respond there, especially in the DFA group. He responds within an hour usually on things if you have questions. Nice. So it was just, kind of a coach, but from afar, more hands-off approach. Yeah. Because we weren't paying full for coaching. It was, $200 a month for the DFA.
Yeah.
But then, so then we started doing this call center together, and he happened to be gone for 1 week doing Steve out of Steve Tran show. And I'm like, hey, how about Cole and I hop on the show? And we did it. And he's like, hey, you guys did such a good job. Why don't you guys take it over? And then I kind of ended up being here because Cole was busy with some other stuff. And I'm just hope he doesn't take it away.
Yeah, right. He's like, I'm taking back now. I'm ready.
Yeah, he's like, you let those 2 kids on the show, you're done. You're done.
Like, your privileges are revoked.
Yeah, your privileges are revoked. But even with the show, he ran the show for 8 years, and he has not once told me this is what you need to do. This is who you need to have on. This is the direction you need to go. It's been a coach and a guide. And I say, hey, I don't want to do this. He won't even let me look at the numbers because he doesn't want me to go by the numbers. He just trusts me to make the decisions. And when I need help, he's there to help me.
Yeah.
And it's just really cool because I think the best way, he empowers people to want to be better. And I think that's what a true leader is, right? Is they empower you to want to be better.
Yep.
What's funny, man, is I see a lot of that in you. Not to be corny or weird, right? But seriously, I call you with an issue.
Yeah.
You pick up the phone, you walk me through it, and you hold me accountable.
Yep.
It's just kind of cool to see that progression. Now you're freaking running his show, and you pointed me to him when I started, and you're like, dude, you need to go listen to this guy. So I did. And now it's just so weird. Look at it all being brought full circle.
Yep.
Yeah, dude. Life's funny for sure. So anyway, guys, I know you guys got an appointment at 2 you got to get to. So thanks so much for coming on the show. It was really enjoyable. I think you guys both are just quality men. And I'm really excited to build our relationship more. I'm excited for you guys to come up and meet your 2 kids, Jeff and play with Monty. So
yeah, for sure, man. Looking forward to it.
I'll bring the dogs.
I'll bring the dogs.
No, dude, thank you, man. We really appreciate you having us on, and we appreciate everything you do for us and our business too.
Absolutely.
Cool,
Man.
guys. All right.
Peace, brother.